I'm ready to slash and burn.
No quarter. I am going to be uncomfortable and all over you from start to finish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of BattleBots Breakdown. And we only have a few weeks left to go, which is sad, because then that means it's going to be, well, Ashley and I will still have NHRL, so it's fine. It's fine. But we definitely have a lot to unpack from this episode, which was very Vegas themed because of the way that the results played out. But we'll go first to the match, which was Banshee versus Cobalt. And shout out to my girl Jenny, looking fabulous in the Banshee attire. Before the match, David said that he armored Banshee up, which obviously I think is a smart idea. Banshee was actually doing a really good job circling Cobalt in the beginning, but he ended up, not driving the direction that you want to on Cobalt. And Cobalt got a couple of hits in, broke the lights, which is something that tends to happen in those situations. Now, Banshee did come back a little bit. And I think that this match was very unfortunate for David Small, because with John Mladenick not having a lot of stick time, being very hesitant on the driving with Cobalt, I think David had a real opportunity here. And I think it was just a matter of staying out of the way of that weapon. Unfortunately, that happened earlier on in the match. And despite the comeback, I mean, it was just too much, I think, in the judge's decision to overcome. But it was a lot closer than I think people may have thought it would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Banshee definitely proved its durability and kind of why David has done pretty well this season. And so it was really cool to see it perform pretty effectively at some points during this match. But of course, that weapon on Cobalt is just absolutely terrifying. And once it gets into the spots that it needs to get into and you just start taking pieces of robot, you're just kind of okay, what now? But I think it's really cool that John took the sticks over for this part of the tournament, because he bought the robot with the intention to do that. And so this is a perfect opportunity, because as much as there is pressure, it's a less pressure situation from the main tournament. And so good on him for just being well, this is my time, I'm gonna try it. And it ended up going pretty well overall for most of the matches. So I thought it was a great showcase for both drivers to show off their robots a little bit too.
Yeah, definitely. And it bothers me to hear some of the feedback on social media and being why would they do that? And he wasn't driving well. The thing is, with robots, they're not much different than anything else, like a vehicle that you drive, or for professional singers that sing songs. Not all of them are the same. And so just because you've driven a robot doesn't mean that you're going to be driving it, a different one exactly the same. They all handle a little bit differently, and it takes time to learn, just like anything else. So, I mean, I thought he did a good job for someone that has pretty much barely driven Cobalt. He did what he needed to do, at least in those first couple of matches. And the only way you can get that experience is a real combat situation. You just have to go for it. And, I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. There's very few drivers in the big field of this world of combat robotics that can pick up a stick and probably effectively drive any robot. So for anybody driving a new machine, there's going to be things to figure out. There's going to be different ways you see the robot move and everything like that. So it's a learning experience, and not for nothing, driving robots is hard. It's not an easy feat. So good on him for stepping up and showing everybody I can do this too. It's not just about being the captain. It's about driving and getting to know the robot too. It's important.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Now the next fight was Jackpot versus Big Dill, and gotta love Jeff with the number of pickle puns before and after the match. Um, Now Big Dill came out very aggressively and box rush. And the unfortunate thing was, as you know, so many of us talk about forks, they got their fork stuck in the kill sauce slot. And that definitely is what started to turn the match, where, you know, Jackpot was able to get at them. I mean, it still was very back and forth after that. And I will say, I don't know how, at the point that Jackpot was under the pulverizer, I don't know how the pulverizer didn't break that weapon. It certainly looked like it was landing directly on that weapon. But it didn't break it, even though they did end up having some weapon issues. And I mean, Jeff talked about that later in the episode. All I can say is I really want to see those two teams mini bots fight each other. Like, they're just, to me, some of the more effective mini bots out there in the field. And that would have been great. But I mean, again, I think Big Dill definitely had some opportunities in this fight where they could have won that match. But Jackpot was resilient and, you know, used everything to the best of their ability and were able to come out on top in that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a back and forth match. There were pieces of both where I was like, oh, okay, like they're controlling that. Oh, no, wait, nope, okay. And then like at one point, like it looked like the drive on Big Dill was kind of starting to struggle. But then by the end of the match, he was kind of moving throughout the box a lot more seamlessly. So it was a really good match for sure. Like lots of back and forth. I would have loved to see Big Dill win because we all know that I like love that team and I think they're awesome. And I love that they added the vert this year. I love that they made that innovation. And unfortunately, to see their weapon chain get snapped off like right in the beginning was super unfortunate. But Jackpot showed like how durable he can be. Like he took some serious hits, like some serious bounces. And even towards the end, when Big Dill was like lifting them around, like they were staying square, like they were staying fine and like ended up coming out on top. But I did think it was funny that Jackpot didn't run a mini bot for this one, but Big Dill did. And then Jackpot was like, okay, time for us to run the mini for all the other matches because it obviously makes an impact. And it goes to show like people with effective mini bots like absolutely can get a hand up.
Yes, they definitely can. And I mean, I think Big Dill over the course of this season has shown a lot of promise, and I just want to see that team come back and do well. I think it's a fantastic robot just with tons of potential.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of that team, so I'm super hopeful to see them come back and even with more innovation next year.
Yes. So then we have Emulsifier versus Captain Shredderator in a surprisingly close match. I don't think there's very many people that would have predicted how close that was going to be. Shredderator ended up using a wedge, which is super uncommon for shell spinners to do that. We've seen it a little bit, but it just, you don't see it a lot. And Emulsifier, you know, they had times where they were hitting, and it's just, I think it's that recoil from, you know, with shell spinners, there's no good place to hit them. I mean, it's just, there's sometimes a lot of luck involved at the angle that you end up getting them at. And the interesting thing for me that comes out of this fight, you know, with, well, Emulsifier won, which I thought was kind of funny that it's just like they come back from a commercial and it's like, oh, by the way, Emulsifier won. Just,
That was
it was very bizarre to me. Like that they haven't really done that for the you know, champion stuff so far. So, but I think that given Captain Shredderator's performance in that fight, and also looking at how Gigabyte did in their fights, I don't actually think that the full body spinner meta is dead. I think that it still has plenty of potential, and, you know, it just takes making them durable and dialing it in to make sure that they don't just kind of die or get knocked apart or, whatever, there's still plenty of potential for it. So I thought that was an interesting thing that came out of that. But just, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to get your thoughts because I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, I definitely have to say, like, the more I've been involved in like the more ring spinner type-esque like robots that I've seen, it's definitely not a dead meta at all. Like, I had the pleasure of calling the maker battle yesterday, and there were a couple of ring spinners, and as soon as they were dialed in and like running and like spinning effectively, like it's absolutely hard to tell where that part of the weapon is. And so it's kind of like, where am I taking my shots? And because they're so fast, you have to line it up perfectly if you're going to take any types of chunks of any weapons. But to be able for like emulsifier to be able to continue to just keep bouncing and just being like, okay, well, I'm going to just keep trying to find where your little wedgelets are and see what I can do. I want to see a strong showing from emulsifier. Like, I feel like in every match they've had something get held up, something get tripped up, whether it's a tread or just like little tiny things that it's just like, oh man, if that was fixed, like this would be so terrifying. And so I'm glad that they won, and I'm glad that they had a stronger showing, but like I am so ready for that robot to like tear things apart, like all over the box.
Yes, that would certainly be a fantastic sight. So the last fight of that first round was Lucky versus Overhaul, which was very back and forth, but honestly, it was the first fairly one-sided match of the first four matches. Overhaul did a little bit, but I mean, it didn't really look like there was a lot going on that end. I thought it was funny because Chris and Kenny were talking about, the beginning was very much a battle for the low ground. And when Lucky finally got under and did that first flip, I'm like picturing Matt in my head saying, I've got the low ground, Charles. And, like, it was great. I mean, I would be curious to know, like, in the end, Lucky was smoking, and I mean, that was I'm sure kind of a little bit scary, but obviously they had dominated most of the match up to that point pretty much. And I think Lucky is one of the most underrated robots in BattleBots, flat out. So it was a good one for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I am rocking the Lucky jersey today. So big shout out to Team Lucky. Like, I thought this match was absolutely fantastic. Like, Matt is such a good driver. And even Jeff points this out later on. Like, he's been obviously driving RC cars for like a really long time, and he's a solid driver. And so you really get to see his showcase of driving in some of these matches. And he is just so patient. And he will just sit there and say, I'm waiting. And if you move, I'm going to take that opportunity, and I'm going to send you as far as I can into the ceiling, hopefully. So I thought this match was really good. Unfortunately, Charles never really got to where he needed to be, and unfortunately never really was able to pick those spots. And it was advantage Lucky, but I was super stoked to see them get the win, and it was just awesome.
Yeah, it definitely was. So like, I don't know if it was inevitable that, when we're looking at this field and we're like, well, Cobalt and Emulsifier are two big vertical spinners, that they would end up facing off against each other at some point, which was really interesting to see. But, before the match, when you're looking at everything, the Bots FC team made the decision to remove the front wedge to get extra reach. And I also thought it was fun. Like, I loved Eric's little sign he held up that said "forks are for eating." They definitely seemed very confident going into the match, and the problem ended up becoming Emulsifier was just gyroing a ton. And it seemed that they were having a lot of trouble controlling it. And for me, had that not happened, I think that the match goes a different way. But, John took advantage of the fact that they couldn't control Emulsifier and was able to hit it a number of times. And it ended up being I believe, the first and only KO of the entire episode. Or no, the last match was a KO as well, but like up to that point, it was the first one that had happened. So yeah, I mean, like, good job by Cobalt for taking advantage of, you know, a challenging situation for Emulsifier.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of times we see aggressive drivers in the field, and because John is still kind of learning, he's not as aggressive. But in this case, it definitely paid off because his patience kind of was what won him this match. And there's a lot of drivers, and like I noticed this a lot with Corey too, and how he drives his robot. He waits and he looks for that moment, and he's like, it doesn't matter if my weapon is smaller than yours, I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna take that opportunity, and I'm gonna go exactly where I need to go when I'm ready to do so. Like, even though aggression is one of the categories, being able to be patient and take those shots and make those picks, I think, is also really important. And in this match, it definitely showed true as to why, like, picking your shots can work out in your favor, because the emulsifier was struggling a little bit. John just waited it out and was like, well, if I hit them in certain spots, I'm going to get a weak point and I'm eventually going to hopefully like knock them out. And that's exactly what happened. So while people are over here knocking out John's driving, it ended up working out completely in his favor. He knew exactly what he was doing in this match.
Yeah, he definitely did. Sometimes patience is the way to go. It's not always 100% aggression all of the time. So, you know, hey, that worked out. Now, going to a match that I think we can all agree was pretty close to, like, as close of a match as you get. I mean, it really, really was, which was Lucky versus Jackpot. I'm not surprised that it's close, because especially with Jeff mentioning the fact that he and Matt race RC cars together, I'm sure they know each other pretty well as drivers. So that's going to play into it. And, you know, Jackpot lost their weapon. Lucky had drive issues. For me, I really think that Ace, the minibot, made a huge difference in that fight by being able to get under Lucky early so that Jackpot was able to get those hits. People don't realize, like, Lucky had quite a lot of damage. You know, it may not have seemed that way, but like they did have quite a lot of damage. It ended up being a split decision. I would actually love to like hear the judge's perspective, only because I was a little bit surprised that Lisa ended up being 7-4 and the other two judges were 6-5. So I'm curious what she saw to make it, you know, that much of a difference versus the other way around. But I mean, it was a really close fight, but trust me, people, there is no Vegas conspiracy going on here. I would have not been surprised, like, either way that the fight went. And I mean, I think in the end that they made the right call.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really, really good match. It was so much back and forth, like just drivers being patient with each other, taking their shots, like knowing where they need to be in the box. Like, and honestly, I think at the end, if Lucky's back left tire never gets under the pulverizer, like if they were able to continue to show maneuverability all the way up until the end, I think it could have gone differently. But I definitely think that Ace played a huge role in this match. It was absolutely effective in being able to stop Lucky early on and allowing Jackpot to get those hits. Like, I saw Mark comment on a Facebook post, because people have been upset over this match, and Mark was like, I was there, I watched this fight in person, and they made the right call. And you know, at the end of the day, like, it stinks when you don't see matches like go your way, but at the same time, like, both competitors are out there, and not for nothing, if they wanted to appeal, they could have, and they didn't. So there are reasons for that, and builders think about that. And you know, it was a great match overall, and everybody made the right call at the end of the day, and it is what it is. And like, you have to just be proud of everything that those two robots put on for like the entire season.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I do want to briefly touch on the little featurette that they did on Stalker, which is Mark Satrakian's robot. And it, like, I mean, that robot, I got the opportunity to see it up close in person while they were trying to like go over the demonstration, and it is amazing. I mean, it just excites me about the possibility of like that application in terms of making a combat robot. You know, I recently had Jay, who made Game Over and took it to the last NHRL event on the show, and like there is potential here, and it's something innovative that we really haven't seen in combat, and I would love to see where it goes. You know, BattleBots recently announced that they are opening a walker division. So hey, if you want to build a walker, or if you have built a walker, absolutely get in on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so cool. Like Stalker was obviously out and about too during filming. So one of the days that I was there, it was right in front on the stage. And so like I got to kind of watch it for like a little while, and it just like comes and it looks at you and you're just like, okay, like, but the technology is just so incredible and so amazing. And there's so many brilliant minds out there that can do these crazy things, and to be able to showcase them in that light is really cool. Like even for what they showcase like at Robo Games and everything like that, like there's just some cool technology out there. And like while I can't in my head think about how they would add a weapon to a walker, like I'm not, my brain doesn't like compute that one well, but I guess we'll see what happens. But I definitely think there's some cool opportunities, and like I can't wait to see what's next.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I just like the level of innovation is insane, and I would be very scary. I would be scared to fight that thing. And keeping in mind, as he mentioned, that version is not 250 pounds, so you can only imagine what it would look like if it was.
Crazy.
This is how Skynet happens, people. This is where it starts. So leading from that into the final, which was Cobalt versus Jackpot, and you've got to love, again, you mentioned patience earlier, and I think Jackpot was very patient to make sure that they got the right spot. I mean, you couldn't have hit Cobalt in a better place. You know, Ace got under that robot, and the second that it did, Jackpot took immediate advantage and hit Cobalt in the exact wrong spot, and then all of a sudden there was just smoke everywhere, followed by fire. And it was comparatively so to all of the matches earlier. It was a very quick fight.
Absolutely. The mini bot played such a role and did its job so effectively. And then, unfortunately, because Jackpot got stuck in Cobalt and its battery, it then took Cobalt for a ride across the box into a few walls and was like, okay, I gotta get away from this fire. Like, how do I back off of this? Like I have to imagine like that's kind of what goes through Jeff's head. Like, okay, I put them on fire, but like I need to get myself away from this fire, because what happens if I light on fire? Like, that's not fun either. So like Cobalt went for a ride. And I would just like to say, like, Shay is me. Like Shay jumping up and down at the end of this match is literally me jumping up at the end of Corey's match. Like all of a sudden I just like felt all the joy that she was feeling. It just made me smile so hard. So shout out to Shay for that one.
Yes, exactly. And it was actually, I was kind of curiously thinking during that, because I'm like, if two bots get stuck together, don't they normally want to try and unstick them? But like, do you really want to get near that fire? Probably not.
They were like, let's just see if Jackpot can unstick himself, because we're not getting involved right now.
Let's see how this plays out. And what's also funny is, again, like, now looking back, I am positive that I watched this match live, and I don't know how I had completely forgotten it, because anytime there's fire, like, how do you forget that? How do you forget a box full of smoke? But BattleBots, like, amnesia is real, and it's a mystery to me.
I can't wait to see what you think of next week's matches and how
I know where I'm gonna be like, okay, now it's all coming back to me. Now I remember all of this happening. Which I mean, next week is just gonna be crazy. Because there's so many like phenomenal robots in there. I mean, Hypershock, Monsoon, Claw Viper, like Shatter, you know.
Our child, like, let's go.
How? Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. I'm really excited for it. You know, I think we're gonna see a lot of really good fights, and all like last point, because speaking of that, there were a lot of people that said they found this week's episode to be boring. I don't know how, like, I don't know how. Like almost every fight lasted 3 minutes and were just like knockout, drag out fights. And you know, it to me, comparatively, compared to the other week's episode where the first round, like every fight was very short and ended in a pretty quick knockout. Like this was more exciting, seeing just back and forth. You know, you don't know who's going to win. That was more exciting. But you know, that may just be me. So.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one though.
If robots can go 3 minutes just tearing the hell out of each other, that's what we all want, I think, you know. So yeah, but next week should be exciting, and then we'll have the conclusion with the final tournament, and you know, I think that's going to be super exciting with the robots that have gotten in so far, and we'll see how that all plays out. But I'm sure exciting things are going to happen either way.
Absolutely, it's gonna be fun.
Yes, so just keep checking out these episodes with myself and Ashley. There's definitely a couple big episodes to come. Keep watching, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and keep watching out, because very soon, as soon as the BattleBots and NHRL seasons wrap up, we're going to officially announce the nominees for the Boxy Awards, and the voting period will begin. So super exciting to get to recognize a lot of people that I know we have a lot of respect and appreciation for. So just keep watching out for it.